Hello everyone, welcome back. We're gonna be discussing about multi-criteria decision making um, with a uh, with a problem statement of the university selection. I have done a lecture to help or advise students how to select a university for higher education. Everybody they may have different criterias. Let's say somebody want to go to a highly ranked university. However, those may be costly. At the same time, some other students, depending upon their financial situations, they may want to go for a little cheaper, or in the sense that the tuition fee is lower at those universities. Um, and similarly, there are other criteria. So it can become a very challenging decision, and a lot many things depends on that, which university people graduate and whatnot for future life. Please watch the lecture university selection. That can give you a bit of idea, or that might help you. And then I formalize the problem there, that how to identify key metrics and how we can make a decision. Now, in this lecture, we're going to be discussing about how we can make use of analytical hierarchy process technique given by Satty, Professor Satty. Um, it's a very popular technique used by different people in different industries, mainly to do with the decision making, project engineering, project management, human resource management. Different industries may use AHP technique for making better decisions. So let's look at it. What essentially is the multi-criteria decision-making problem? So we have one goal, means a goal is nothing but that we want to choose something. For example, um, let me pick up another example. There are 10 companies manufacturing mobile phones. Now, out of those 10 mobile phones, which one would you want to buy? Okay. You may have criteria, let's say cheaper, a good looking phone. Oh, I can have, these many softwares I can have, or these many apps, various things, whether it is easy to use. So different criterias you may have. Based on those criterias, you may want to select an alternative, or which mobile phone you want to use. Just for an example. So essentially, we have one goal. We want to have a selection or choice. We want to choose one out of n alternatives, given that we have multiple criteria. So that essentially is the multi-criteria, and decision making is which alternative do we want to choose, okay? Or in other words, we can say that, right? Uh, all the criterias, right? We can make a link connection to the goal, and then further each criteria, right? Um, uh, each based on each criteria, we may want to have different alternative. Okay, so it becomes a complex problem. So, is there any way we can do something? So, Professor Satty he devised a mathematical model or a mechanism uh, for um, for decision making, rather than people choose from their intuition. What if there is a mathematical model to help choosing the better alternative, given 10 different criteria or n different criteria? Okay, so criteria are nothing but the attributes and alternatives, as we already discussed. um, so let's say what we can say about the goal with reference to the university selection problem. Those who have not watched a university selection lecture, please do watch. That will really help you students who are preparing for higher education at abroad or they're in home country. There are tons of thousands of different universities, and it can become very challenging which university to choose. I mean, not everybody can go to a top university, but then there are alternatives. So among those alternatives, which one would you want to choose? Okay. So let's keep that in mind. That is our goal, that we want to choose one university. Okay. Let's say myself, I want to choose one university for PhD or for masters. Okay, that's my goal. Okay. Now I have, out of, 10 universities, then I sorted it out to 4 universities, let's say. Okay. I don't want to name it here universities that can become biased. So I'm just neutralizing and making a choice, say University A, B, C, D. One can pick a name, say University of Toronto, Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, whatever you want to choose it. Okay. So these are my alternatives. And out of these 4 alternatives, my goal is to choose one university. Okay. Now, how do I choose? I may have different criterias. Okay. For example, tuition fees. Which university I can afford? Okay. Based on my financial situation, tuition fee. Okay. Ranked. What is the global rank and what is the local rank of that university, or how universities ranked within the country. Okay. Or let's say if the country is big, how the university is ranked within the state. Let's say if somebody doesn't want to go out of the state, or their circumstances are like that, they can't leave the country, then they might have to choose within their state, province, or localized university. So what is its rank? Okay. People who don't have any that kind of foundation, they can freely travel to different countries. Then it becomes a bigger horizon, that out of thousands of universities in the world, where they rank. Okay. Cost is very important. So we covered the tuition fee. The cost includes the tuition fee, right? Plus, or you may call it, okay, I have included tuition fee, so I don't have to include, but then living cost. Okay. How much yearly living cost, including rent, food, expenses on books, IT expenses, all sorts of other cost. Okay. Scholarship. Can I get a scholarship at that university? Or what is the percentage of students are getting a scholarship at that university? Very important factor. Difficult to find, but if you can find, it will help you really, because not many universities they offer full scholarship. They might offer you 1 year scholarship, but then let's say if somebody is in the middle of the PhD program and university doesn't have funding, they stop the scholarship. What are you gonna do? So all sort of those criteria you might want to dig down, that what is the university's reputation in terms of scholarship. Definitely you don't want to go to a university where they promise 1 year funding, but then later on based on feedback from students, they stop the scholarship. My personal experience that the universities, they do stop a scholarship in between of your program, so be careful. Okay. Then financial crunch situation, person have to drop out of their program. You don't want to do that, right? So scholarship, very important factor. Then employment, right? So people who are going for bachelor's education, okay, even masters, they want to look for employment. What if they get the degree, very expensive degree, remember, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years of spending at university. So there are costs associated with it, time, cost. What if you don't get any employment? What if the degree is not supporting the employment? People are not getting employment from that college or school. You want to check it. Okay, very important criteria. Also, the another important criteria is the quality of education. Okay, What if other things are okay, but most of the professors, they're not up to mark. Their teaching quality is sucks actually. The people really, students can't understand what the professors are teaching. There are universities, colleges where teaching quality is very poor, so you may want to check that. And then ranked professors, very important uh, for people who are going for master's or PhD or research program. That how much percentage, or let's say out of 100 professors, how many professors are ranked in top, or how many professors are able to publish articles in top ranked journals. So some kind of a percentage criteria. Okay. So these are basic few criterias which I would have in mind before I go and select each university. Which means I need to spend a little bit time in digging down all those factors. That really will help you, right? Great. Now, so out of these, do a uh, can we do a mathematical model for making a decision? See, it's very complex now. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 factors. And for alternatives, even though if you just do permutation combination, it's just too many, right? It's just too many. So, uh, is there any method? Is mathematics can help us to make a decision? So let's try to find out what we can do with the analytical hierarchy process technique, AHP in short. All right. So let's remind ourselves about the AHP. We have a goal, okay, attributes and alternatives. All right. And we make it in a hierarchical, we make a hierarchy. So hierarchy name of the AHP came from here. So we make hierarchy of the goal, attributes, and alternatives. And analytical comes from the fact that we are analyzing, or we are developing an analytical mathematical model. Okay. In short, so AHP. Okay. So step first for any AHP problem is that create an hierarchy where level 1 of the tree network, we have a goal, okay, and level 2 attributes, and level 3 alternatives. All right. So our goal is to find a university. Which university should I go for my PhD? That's my goal. Okay, let's put it as simple. So I put it at level 1 of the tree, okay, or root of the tree, inverted tree. And then level 2 will go all the criterias which I just discussed. That I want to look for tuition, rank of the university, cost, scholarship, employment, quality, ranked professor. So some kind of, number I'm going to put it at some scale, but those are criterias, essential criterias for myself to look for, where I'm going to spend next 4 to 7 years of my life, depending upon which program you want to be going into. Bachelor's program, 4 to 5 years, PhD program, 6 to 7 years, even longer. Depends. Master's program, 2 to 3 years. Depends, right? So let's call it here. I'm just selecting a university for my PhD. All right. So I have these criterias. I make a level 2 and I make a connection, okay, in the hierarchy. Then at the level 3, I have alternatives. So I choose 4 alternatives, right? 4 universities, A, B, C, D. Okay. Good. Now I can make a connection. So what it means that I'm going to be checking, right, with respect to goal when I will be doing a comparison matrix for criteria. Similarly, for each criteria, I will have to do a comparison matrix between each alternative. Okay. Step 2. Step 2 is important, right? Now we are actually making a matrix or model. determine relative importance of attributes. Okay, so how do we do that? We do a pairwise comparison. And once we do pairwise comparison, we come up with a matrix. To help the pairwise comparison, Professor Satty has put down some numbers for, let's say, equal importance of the criterias. Represent number 1, moderate importance number 3, is just to help the calculations. And remember, notice that these are between 1 to 9. Okay, their numbers are not going more than 10. Okay, so there are various reasons. Well, these are some of associated with the matrix. You may want to have more, but then you have to check whether the matrix computation is really making sense, right? So let's talk about, as Professor Satty said, 1 equal importance, 3 moderate importance, 5 strong importance, 7 very strong importance, and 9 extremely important. And then when I'm fuzzy, to support in between values 2, 4, 6, 8. And 1 divided by 3, these are for inverse comparison. Okay, so once we establish this fact from the subjective to numerical values, that will really help to come up with a pairwise comparison matrix of the attributes or criteria. Okay, this is a scale, you may call it a scale. So let's look at it, what we can do with the university selection problem. So as you can see here, I have put down the criterias horizontally and vertically, okay, in a matrix form. I could use matrix, but to explain here, I just put it here in a very simple and rough way. So now, what is my goal? Okay, always remember, goal needs to be in mind, because I'm now at level 2 of the tree, analytical hierarchy process, hierarchy tree. Okay, so my objective is to compare the criterias with each other, having in mind the goal. Okay, so what it means, that how important for me tuition is with respect to compared to rank with respect to goal, which means selecting the university. Okay, or in other words, I can think of that, do I give more importance to lower tuition fee as compared to rank, or do I give importance to rank more than tuition fee? For example, if my dad is rich, then I don't have to worry about tuition fee. He will be able to manage. Then I would preferably give importance to rank. But then that also possible that my dad is not rich. Not everybody's dad is rich. So I would give importance to tuition fee, because if I can save some money, I would have less student debt. And essentially, you don't want to get a student debt. Government never takes your student debt off. It's very important to understand that don't take a student debt unless it is very much necessary. What happens that people do declare bankruptcy, right? So they don't have to. They think that they won't have to pay the debt, but student debt is different. One must have to pay student debt no matter what it is. Bankruptcy cannot save you. So what it means that many people, right, once they graduate, they have debt sitting on their head of $300,000-$400,000. Think about it. It takes about 20 years after they get job to clear off that debt. If they are poor, if not everybody gets a good job, and then various other issues related to they can't get mortgage, and unless they pay off the high interest rate debt, typically it's 7 to 8%. Nevertheless, that's a different topic for discussion. So always remember, tuition fee is quite important. So if my dad is rich, I don't have to worry about tuition fee. But if my dad is not rich, well, many people their dad or mom, they're not rich. Okay, otherwise, why they would be struggling at university, right? So usually, right, poor people, right, they go to, universities, want to get fancy degrees so that they can get well-paying job. People who are rich, they have their own businesses, they don't care. So that can change, right? So you're getting my point, what I'm trying to explain here, how the decision making may change. So for my case, right, my dad is not rich, okay? So I would prefer to give more importance to tuition uh, than the rank. Okay, great. So how the Professor Satty's scale can help me. Okay, so let's say X, I'm giving tuition is X, then a rank, am I giving importance like 6 times more to the tuition or not? Okay. So here, let's say, for simplicity, 6 times I'm giving more importance. Probably, right. I got lucky. I won the lottery, or, somebody donated money. So think about it. So rank, okay. So now, what will be the value, okay, in the matrix? 6x divided by x equal to 6. Okay. Now, let's talk about compare the tuition with the cost. Okay, so we compare the tuition with the cost, how important it is that let's say I spend right, tuition fee $50,000 per year, but then university is located in a city area, then cost of living will be high. But probably university is located in a countryside, remote area, cost of living would be lower. Okay, so how I can assign the value? Okay, so let's say 3. Okay, moderate importance compared to tuition. So let's put it 3x divided by x equal to 3. Remember, all these are very subjective. So, but always remember, put some value which makes sense. Don't put unreasonable value. Otherwise, you might not get a good result after computation. So it's like garbage in, garbage out. So remember that, put in this matrix some reasonable values which you think are reasonable. Okay, there is no de facto standard. I mean, it's just a user choice, but then choice needs to be meaningful to get meaningful results produced by the model. Okay, so similarly, let's talk about a scholarship. Let's say I give importance 8x to scholarship. Okay, so 8. Employment, I give pretty much importance to employment as well, that after graduating I should be able to get employment. Okay, quality of education, well, I let me put it right, more than moderate but not that much, so let's say 4x, right? Because I know that I do hard work, I learn myself, right? I don't like to depend on professors that much. So for me, it's okay. But let's say uh, you are, right, someone who are totally dependent on professors. So you may want to give a higher importance, let's say 9x to this number, okay? So it depends totally on individual, right? Um, right. So for me, right, I learned many things on my own. So I mean, it's okay for me, right, giving a lower number here. Um, good. Now let's talk about the ranked professor, right? How many professors are uh, ranked high, or how many professors are able to publish in top ranked journals? So that percentage, right? So some number. So how important is that? Well, I'm going for a PhD program. It's quite important for me to have professors who are publishing in reputed journals. But let's say you are someone who is not going for a PhD degree, then you may want to give a lower score because you will just, want to graduate with bachelor's or master's or MBA, right? You don't really care about the publications that much. So you might give lower score here, okay? So as I explained, right, tuition versus tuition is just mutually right, equally important, so we give it 1. So if you look at it, right, all of the diagonal rank versus rank, cost versus cost, scholarship versus scholarship, they will all get 1. Okay, equal importance. Okay, now let's look at the second column and second row. Okay, so we give it 1, as I just said. How about the rank versus cost? Okay, I give more importance to cost, lower cost. Okay, because I'm not a, my dad is not rich, so I want to give importance to lower cost, right? And it's important because I don't want to, have a student debt, keep paying. As I just explained, that it's very bad to have a student debt. Avoid as much as you can and depend on the scholarship. So it's very important to have a scholarship. So I give more weight to scholarship, in other words. Okay, I give more weight to employment too, because as I said, not a rich guy, so I would prefer to have some decent paying job. Okay, after getting the degree. Okay, quality of education, as I said, compared to rank. Okay, if the rank is okay, then quality of education might be okay, might not be okay. I put 7. I could have put it lower, like 3. Doesn't really matter. Depends on you. Okay. Rank professors versus rank. Well, I could have put it a little bit higher here, but let's say just stick with 3 now for now. Okay. So similarly, we can fill all other entries in the different cells. Okay, and we come up with a. So this will create a upper triangular matrix. Okay, you got it, upper triangular matrix, and the diagonal will be 1. Okay, now left is lower triangular, so it's very simple, right? Whatever is in the right side, it will be 1 divided by this number, opposite. Okay, so rank versus tuition is the just reverse of the we have the 6 number here. 1 divided by 6. Okay, so it's the inverse of the upper triangular. Okay, similarly we can keep filling other entries, and we come up with this matrix. Okay, upper triangular, lower triangular. All right, so let's convert it to decimal. Okay, now next step is to get the sum. Okay, summation of all the column entries. So as you can see here, column tuition summation is 2.15, rank, cost, scholarship, employment, quality, rank professors. So we did sum of all the columns. All right. Okay. Now after getting the sum, right, we may call it a pairwise matrix, right? I keep calling pairwise matrix, so that's fine. After getting the sum, what we want to do, we want to divide each column entry with the sum. Okay, to normalize it, because we are trying to normalize, right? So we divide it. That's the method Professor Satty has proposed, AHP method, that you divide the each cell of the matrix with the sum. Okay, so column tuition, each entry divided by the column sum. Similarly, rank and other columns. Okay, and convert it to decimal, we get the normalized matrix. Okay, good. Now next step is to get the weight, normalized weight of each criteria. And how do we do that? That we take a sum of each row this time. Okay, so previously we took the sum of each column. Okay, now in this step, when we're going to get the weight of normalized weight of each attribute or criteria, we sum the row and then divide with the how many criterias we have. So here we have 7 criteria. So we take the sum of each entry in each row divided by 7, and we get 0.351. Similarly, we do for the all the rows. So we get the normalized weight of all criteria. Okay, normalized weight of all criteria. Very important. Good. So now we have some weighting mechanism of each criteria. Now, whether these weight makes sense or not, there are further calculations of calculating the CI, right, and RI, relative index, right, divided by relative index, right. So we will be discussing going forward lambda values, okay, eigenvectors, eigenvalues. You may further want to look into the textbook for the terminology, okay. But here it's important to know how the normalized weight of each criteria we have come up with, okay. Now, third step, important step to check the consistency of the values, what we have come up with, okay. Or we want to do consistency calculation of pairwise matrix. All right. So as you know, we have come up with the pairwise matrix. This was the matrix, and then we came up with the calculations, right? And we normalized weight, we got it. Good. Okay. Now, consistency calculations, okay? Or we want to calculate the consistency index, okay? So what we're going to be doing here, so we multiply, okay, each entry with the weight, okay, multiply each entry of the matrix or each entry of the column with the column weight, okay, each entry of the column with the column weight, each entry of the column with the column weight, each entry of the column with the column weight, okay. All right, so we came up with these numbers. Good. Now it's just writing it same thing again because I want to write a few more things here. So after multiplying each entry of the matrix with the weight of right, okay, these were the weights. Now we want to get the weighted sum, okay. So how we want to get the weighted sum? We're going to be adding all together each row, okay, each row we are adding, so we will get this sum. So this is a weighted sum, okay, for each attribute. So we get weighted sum of each attribute. Good. Now let's put it the normalized weight along with the weighted sum of each attribute. And we're going to be doing one more calculation, that sum, what we calculated for each attribute, divided by normalized weight of the attribute, okay. So we're going to get this ratio, sum divided by weight, okay, weighted sum divided by attribute weight, normalized attribute weight. So we get these numbers, okay. Now how do we calculate the lambda? Is add all of these ratios, sum divided by wi, all of these ratios divided by how many attributes I have? 7, okay. So my lambda comes out to be 11.97. Beautiful. Consistency index, now I'm going to be calculating for this matrix. So what the consistency index is, lambda max minus n divided by n minus 1. Here n is the number of attributes, okay. Further calculating 11.97, what was the value of the lambda max, minus 7 divided by 7 minus 1, that comes up down to be 0.828, okay. This is the consistency index of the matrix. Now let's calculate the consistency ratio. Consistency ratio is nothing but the fraction of the CI and RI. Okay, CI is the consistency index, RI is the random index. Now, where the random index come from? Well, Professor Satty has proposed random index. These comes based on a lot of experiments and data put together and come up with say, let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9 entries in the matrix. Okay, so 9 by 9, 8 by 8, 7 by 8. So different matrices and calculate it. So we're not going to go in detail in calculating the RI, but let's say assume these RI random indexes for matrices, right? Where they have n equal to up to 9. So here I should be using 1.44, but looks like I made a mistake. So so I should be using here 1.44. There is a mistake here. So it's difficult to correct it back, but just note that I should be dividing it by 1.44 instead of 1.69. Okay. So now this number, right, consistency ratio, what does it say? Typically, it is preferred to have consistency ratio less than 0.10. Okay, but that means tells me that somewhere I have made a mistake, or my pairwise comparison matrix, I should have adjusted some values. This essentially is showing that how the matrices will converge. So this is a little bit higher number, which means that the results may not be that much accurate, but nevertheless, idea here is to explain the concept. Okay. So remember here, this should be 1.44, but it just made a mistake. Okay, so don't worry about it. Okay, so this is just consistency ratio, right? Prefer to have less than 0.10, but if you are getting higher, it's okay. Then you can go back and revise the calculations in your Excel file, matrix calculations, and see how does it go. It's not always necessary to get that number, but also, like in my example, I might not be using the very accurate RI random index numbers. Okay, but the idea here is to explain how the calculations happen in AHP method. Okay, good. So we get the weighted, right, normalized weights of each attributes, and we have calculated the consistency ratio. Okay. So this consistency ratio gives me confidence in calculating normalized weights. Okay. So if I don't have much confidence, I can discard it and I can redo calculations again. But if I think it's okay, then I can go forward and, do further calculations to make a decision. Good. Now, problem is still there because so far I have normalized the criteria matrices and I came up with the normalized weight of each criteria. Very important. Okay. Now I'm left with with respect to each criteria, how each university stands. So I have to do another time, or actually multiple times. So 7 multiplied by 4, right? That many times I have to do matrices and create this calculation again, do a pairwise matrix, and come up with the weight with respect to each criteria of each university. So we're going to be doing, let's have a look. Okay. So for simplicity, I'm going to be keeping the same, right? Same scale, right? Let's say, so now I'm deciding with respect to tuition, how important, how the University A and University B stands with respect to each other. So is it like moderately importance, of strong importance, very strong? So for example, University A compared to University B, I give 3. University A compared to University C, I give 4. University A as compared to University D, I give 4. Okay. Similarly, I fill other entries. So I make the upper triangular matrix, and the lower triangular matrix is just the inverse of it. Okay. All right. Now we can convert it to decimal. We get the sum as we just explained. We calculate the sum. Now we divide the each entry with the sum. Okay. We did this step before. Okay, good. Now we weight is we add all entries together. Okay, good. All right. So this weight is nothing but how we calculated the normalized weight in the previous example with respect to when we were doing with the criteria. Same thing applies here, right? We calculate the normalized weight. Okay, we add all together, divide by 4, because here we have 4 entries. Okay, so I'm going to be keeping same thing for with respect to each criteria to have simplicity here. Of course, it will change, but to explain the concept, right? It's good enough. If you want to go ahead and change, yeah, go ahead and change, do that. Rank, employment, scholarship, quality. So after doing that, I get the weight of each university with respect to each criteria. And how can I make a matrix here? So I put a university, right? Each university row, and column is denoted by attributes or criteria. So now you know all the entries, right, with respect to tuition, where the University A weight, University B weight, University C weight, University D weight, where they stand. With respect to rank, where they stand. With respect to cost, where they stand. So we get these entries, and we also have the weight of each criteria. All good. Now what we're going to be doing next? Okay, we're going to be multiplying this weight of each column with the entry in the each column. Okay, same operation again, same thing. Okay, so once we do that, we are kind of normalizing with respect to weight of each criteria. Okay, so, or in other words, each criteria's influence, right, we have encapsulated in these entries, in these numbers. Good. So we don't need those weights now because weights are already included. So we did calculation. Okay, and now let's do the sum. Same thing again, what we did earlier, sum of each column. Okay, after doing sum of each column, we divide the each entry in the column with the sum of the column to make it further normalize. Okay, after doing that, we get matrix, final matrix this way. Now we're going to be doing one more step, adding the values of the each row. Okay, to get the final score, and dividing by how many attributes I have. Okay, so I have 7 attributes, and I have 7 values of each corresponding to each university, okay, or each alternative. After doing the calculations, I come up with these numbers, and up to second place of the decimal, I get 42231605. All good. Now, what does it tell me? These are the rank or final score of each university or each alternative here. And whichever is the higher, that is a preferred choice. Okay, so here I come up with University A is the higher number or highest among all other numbers. So that tells me that this is a preferred choice or better choice. Okay. So this is a very simple and very elegant technique of making decisions with a justification, sound mathematical justification. Remember that a lot must depend on how pairwise matrices are constructed, right? But that's again, that's the human factor, right? Right. So one might think of, with respect to certain criteria, I give importance to that. Somebody else wanna give importance to that. Some other person wanna give importance to that. So that will change accordingly. Rank, final score will change. But that's a good, right? Everybody is different. So that will help everyone based on their situations to make a good decision. All right, good. If you want to take a further look on more complex examples, you may want to check one of my published article where I have included the fuzziness in the AHP, also with the time dependency, right? Very complex example. And this article was published in Elsewhere Applied Software Computing Journal in 2011. Here is the link. I will put the link in the description as well. Great. So thank you guys. I hope you have liked it. Please do like, subscribe, and if you have liked the lecture, please do share with your friends, and provide your feedback, comments. We'll try to upgrade and create more interesting lectures. Also, on a note that I might have done some grammatical mistakes, so please excuse me for that. This lecture was done in a very short time frame. Somebody requested for doing a lecture on this topic. I mean, it seems very easy, but then once people read books and papers, a lot of mathematical equations, they get scared. Otherwise, conceptually, it is very simple. If you are stuck, if you need help, just let me know. I would try to guide you or help you whatever I can. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.